go right now to Janice Mathis, Executive Director, National Council of Negro Women. Janice, you spent a lot of years in Atlanta, so you certainly crossed paths with Reverend Lowery on many occasions.
On many occasions. I listened last night. That was a great tribute to Dr. Lowery that you did last night, Roland.
I appreciate it.
And Melanie reminded me of something that I don't know how I could have forgotten it, because I worked harder on it than anything I've ever worked on in my life. And that was that march in 2005 to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act. We called it Keep the Vote Alive. And there were, I guess, 15,000 people, and you and Stevie Wonder and Nancy Pelosi all marched. And Dr. Lowery was one of the leaders and one of the speakers. At that time, our offices were next door to each other in the old Atlanta Life building, which is now owned by Georgia State University, like everything else in that part of downtown Atlanta. But back then, we met every week, and I remember traveling to Minnesota to get the NAACP to endorse the march. And that was an occasion where all the civil rights family from all over the country came together, and Dr. Lowery was an integral part of that. He kept teasing me, though, telling me, I'm not coming, I'm going to be out of town. I'm not coming, I'm going to be out of town. But I knew he was teasing because I knew he couldn't miss.
Well, in fact, as you're talking, go to my iPad, please. This is a photo I shot of him and his wife, Evelyn Lowery, on the back of a golf cart at that particular march in 2005. You're absolutely right. And so there are a number of people there. That's when Bruce Gordon was president of the NAACP.
Yeah.
Dick Gregory was there. We've since lost him. Reverend Dr. Willie Barrow was also there. Actually, I was going through, there were a number of photos that I actually came across.
James Orange was there. I remember James Orange led a whole cavalcade of union members and activists. That was it. And what made it so special is that, I guess about a month before the march, George Bush decided he would, after all, endorse the reauthorization of Voting Rights Act. And I said, can't nobody tell me that marching doesn't work, because I've seen it work. And we all went to Washington to see the signing of the reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act. He teased me a lot. He liked to tease women, but I tell you the other thing he did, he made room for women in leadership. And I think that was for a couple of reasons. One was he had 3 daughters, and no man wants to see his own daughters discriminated against. But the more powerful force, I think, was that Evelyn was his wife. Evelyn, whose lovely picture you're showing, was a real civil rights hero in her own right. She was the first person to tell me that I needed to be in favor of LGBT rights, and would have rallies every year and would invite me to speak. I was relatively young, and she said, yes, you must. This is part of the women's movement. You must be part of this. And you just didn't tell the Lowerys no. Jesse Jackson said something about him one time. I worked for Reverend Jackson a long time. And he said, Joe, that's what he called him. Joe was the smartest person, is the smartest person in the civil rights movement. And that stuck with me.
Certainly, again, someone who was respected and revered by so many people. Reverend Jackson did say last night he didn't believe that Reverend Lowery got the credit he deserved, because he was not always out front, such a public figure, but was certainly one of those instrumental voices behind the scenes.
But I tell you what he did do. Every week on Tuesday at noon, we met at the old SCLC Women headquarters at the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. Helen Butler, who was on the show last night, runs that organization today. Or civil rights and human rights organizations, multicultural, white folk, black folk, everybody would gather at noon on Tuesday to talk about our issues. And we would collaborate and help each other and cooperate with each other. And he was the moving force behind that. And he would always end it by telling us, and you are chaplains of the common good. And it made you feel like you could literally walk on water to go out of that room, knowing that the common good rests on your shoulders. One time when I hadn't been there long, he looked at me, and I was the only woman in the room that day, bunch of fellas. And he said, Janice, will you pray? But I go to church, but I'm not no public prayer kind of person. And I knew it was a test. When a preacher tells you to pray, you do not close your eyes and start praying. And I did. And I realized it was sort of an initiation into the club of civil rights leaders. And I was always sort of grateful to him for that.
Well, Janice Mathis, we're certainly glad that you could join us, share your thoughts and reflections on Reverend Dr. Joseph Lowery. We appreciate it. Thanks a
He's
lot.
a great man. Thank you, Roland. And look, they're not going to have a funeral in Atlanta, but they had one last night.
Well, I'm quite sure, and that's why we did what we did, and that's why again,
That's why you do what you do.
and the reason we have our stuff that we own because we ain't got to ask nobody to do it.
There you go. Thank you so much.
Janice, I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Joining us right now,
All
folks, is I call him. If y'all think Morgan Freeman is the epitome of the voice of God, he got some competition. Joining us right now is Reverend Dr. Otis Moss Jr., Pastor Emeritus of Olivet Institutional Baptist Church in Cleveland, Ohio. Reverend Moss, how you doing?
Hello, Brother Roland. How are you doing?
It's great. Always good to talk with you. Just share your thoughts, if you will, about your longtime friend, Reverend Dr. Joseph Lowery.
Thank you very much. If you will permit me, Brother Roland, I just received word about an article that quoted me, which I had not given a quote, saying that I performed the wedding ceremony of Dr. Lowery, which is totally inaccurate. And
Wow.
it's carried in the religious news service, and it's a long quote, and I haven't even talked with them.
Oh, well, don't worry about it. I got more followers than they do, so I'm about to send the tweet out right now saying that is absolutely false.
Thank you so much. Let's come to Dr. Lowery. I had a sacred moment with his daughters on the evening of his passing. I have had great respect and admiration for Dr. Lowery through the years. I met him, I believe it was in the year of 1962. Annual convention of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. There are some backstories that time would not permit us to go into detail here, but he was active and had been active. I did not know him before then, but I knew of his work in Mobile, Alabama, and his association with Dr. King and Dr. Abernathy and other leaders, Dr. Shuttlesworth, Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, and other stalwarts in the civil rights movement. Dr. Lowery was courageous, creative, a great sense of humor. He became president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference at a very difficult moment and had the responsibility of bringing new forces into the organization and continuing the work, the historic work of Dr. King and Dr. Abernathy. Another thing, fast forward, Dr. Lowery, myself and others were early supporters of President Obama. Dr. Lowery traveled all over the nation helping in the campaign. Joshua Dubois can be a great source for this because he was the national coordinator in this endeavor. Dr. Lowery never moved back from a tremendous challenge. I don't know how many times he went to jail and always stood ready to challenge injustice, discrimination, and racism wherever it was found. He did this in Mobile, Alabama. He did it in Birmingham, Alabama. He did it in Atlanta, Georgia, and throughout the nation, and I could say around the world. And we are blessed, Roland, to have had his presence almost 100 years. Those of your age, and although I'm much older than you, of my generation, we've never lived in the world without the presence of Joseph Eccles Lowery. And we don't know what it would be like without his physical presence. It will be a radical adjustment. But we thank God for his leadership, his courage, his creativity, and his willingness to face death and march on.
Reverend Dr. Otis Moss Jr., we appreciate it, sir.